The first time she said it was just a business meeting, I believed her, because I wanted our life to stay simple. Hey viewers, before we move on, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want more stories like this. I'm 33, and I've always been the kind of guy who trusts until there's a reason not to. I work in operations planning for a regional distribution company, the kind of job where you live by schedules, freight windows, and calm problem solving. My days are predictable on purpose. My brain likes order. So when I met Tessa, she felt like a storm I could still enjoy from a safe porch. Tessa was 29, sharp, polished, and social in a way that made rooms bend toward her. She worked in business development for a tech services firm, which meant she was always on calls, always meeting someone, always talking about partnerships and pipeline. When she talked about work, it sounded like a game she was winning. I liked that ambition. I liked her confidence. I liked that she seemed proud to have me, the steady guy, the one who didn't need the spotlight. We'd been together a little over 2 years and living together for 8 months. Our place wasn't fancy, but it was comfortable. 2 bedrooms so she could have a home office and I could keep my desk and my gym stuff in the second room. We had rituals: coffee in the morning, grocery run on Sundays, takeout on Fridays if we were both exhausted. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt like building. And for a while, it was. Then the meetings started to multiply. At first, it was normal. Her job really did involve dinners and networking and last-minute calls. I'd heard enough about corporate culture to know some weeks are chaotic. She'd come home late and I'd warm up food. She'd kiss my cheek and say sorry, it was a client thing. I'd shrug and tell her to get some sleep. We weren't fragile. We were adults, but the language she used started to repeat in a way that felt too rehearsed. Just a meeting, just drinks, just business, just my job. It was always just something, and I started noticing what it wasn't. It wasn't specific. She rarely used names anymore. When she did, it was like she was testing how I reacted. She'd glance at my face, watch for a twitch, and if I stayed calm, she'd keep going. The name that became a regular guest was Grant. She mentioned him first like it was nothing. We were cooking together one night, chopping vegetables, music in the background. Tessa's phone buzzed and she checked it and smiled in a way that didn't reach her eyes. "Grant is being annoying again," she said, typing fast. "Who's Grant?" I asked, casual, because that's how you're supposed to be. She didn't even look up. "Regional account director. He's on one of our big deals. Kind of intense." "Okay," I said and kept chopping. One name didn't mean anything, but then Grant became the reason for everything. Grant wants to move the timeline. Grant asked me to join a call. Grant thinks we should do dinner with the client. Grant booked a table to talk strategy. His name slid into our life like it belonged there. And the way she said it changed too. At first it was mildly annoyed. Then it became amused. Then it became warm. The first time I felt my instincts wake up was on a Thursday. I got home early for once, stopped at a bakery on the way, thought I'd surprise her. I walked in, and she was in the bedroom, standing in front of the mirror, adjusting a dress. Not a work dress, not a blazer and slacks. A fitted black dress and heels that didn't say conference room. They said date night. I paused in the doorway. "Big client dinner?" I asked, holding up the bag like a peace offering. She turned and smiled fast, bright, practiced. "Yes, it's important." Grant set it up. "He wants to impress them." "Who's going?" I asked. She hesitated for just a blink. "It's just me and him. Easier to talk without a crowd." My stomach tightened, but I kept my face neutral. "Just you and him," I repeated. Tessa sighed like I'd asked why gravity exists. "Don't start. Okay, it's business. I need to show initiative. This is how the game is played." I nodded, because arguing in that moment would have made me the jealous boyfriend in her story. She kissed my cheek, picked up her purse, and left. She didn't ask about the bakery bag. She didn't say thank you. She didn't even notice what it was. I stood there alone with warm pastry smell in my hands and felt stupid for trying. She came home close to midnight. She wasn't stumbling. She wasn't exhausted. She was energized. There was color in her cheeks. She moved like she'd had a good night. She brushed past me and headed to the bathroom. "You eat?" I asked, trying to keep it light. "Yes," she said quickly. "Great place, great conversation. It went really well." Then she turned on the shower. I sat on the couch and listened to the water. It should have made me feel relieved. Great conversation. Went well. Business win. But what I felt was something colder. A sense that I'd been informed, not included. I didn't check her phone that night. I didn't want to become that guy. I told myself my discomfort was just unfamiliarity with her world. I went to bed and stared at the ceiling, letting reason fight instinct. Reason lost slowly. The next 2 weeks, the meetings kept coming. Not huge groups, not teams. Almost always one-on-one. She'd disappear after work and come home late with a story that sounded like a press release. We talked about strategy. We reviewed numbers. We needed alignment. We had to build rapport. When she spoke, she sounded like she was reading from a playbook. And I noticed something else. She started guarding time, not just being busy. If I suggested dinner on a certain night, she'd shut it down immediately. Already booked. Can't. Work. But the next night, she'd be free and affectionate, like she was making up for something without admitting it. Our relationship started feeling like a calendar she controlled. Then there were the little slips. The cologne smell once. The lipstick touch-up in the car mirror before she walked into our building, like she wanted to look fresh for me even though she'd been out for hours. The way she'd come home and head straight to the shower before hugging me, like she needed to rinse the night off. I didn't accuse. I watched. Because the worst part about being lied to is not the lie itself. It's how it rewires your brain into doubting your own senses. The moment I stopped doubting myself came from something stupid. A receipt. She came home one night and tossed her coat over the chair. Her bag fell open on the floor. A folded receipt slid out and landed near my foot. I should have handed it back. That's what a normal partner does. But something in me said, "Look, I picked it up." It was from a cocktail bar downtown. 2 drinks, 1 appetizer. A timestamp that matched the hours she'd been silent. The total was high, and the tip was higher. Tessa tipped generously when she was trying to impress someone. I walked into the kitchen with the receipt in my hand. "Hey," I said, holding it up. "You dropped this." She glanced at it and her eyes flickered just for a second. Then she laughed lightly. "Oh, that. Grant insisted on taking me out to thank me. I told him it wasn't necessary, but you know how sales guys are." I watched her face as she spoke. There was no guilt. There was irritation, like she resented having to explain. That was the moment I realized I wasn't getting the truth. I was getting the version of the truth she thought I'd accept. So I decided I would stop asking and start verifying. Not because I wanted drama, because I wanted reality. A few days later, she invited me to a company mixer. She framed it like a peace offering, like she'd sensed the distance in me and wanted to bring me closer to her world. "It's at this rooftop lounge downtown," she said, casual. "Nothing big, just drinks. You'll meet some people. It'll be fun." I almost said no. I hate those environments. The fake laughter, the business cards, the feeling that everyone is interviewing you without admitting it. But I went because part of me still wanted to be wrong. The rooftop was loud and glossy. People in crisp outfits holding drinks they barely tasted, smiling too hard. Tessa looked like she belonged there. She moved through the crowd with ease, introducing me as my boyfriend in a proud, practiced way. She held my hand just enough to look committed, not enough to feel connected. Then I saw him. Grant. He was standing near the bar, laughing with 2 guys in suits. When he saw Tessa, his face changed. Not professional. Familiar. He walked over and greeted her with a smile that felt like ownership. "There you are," he said, eyes lingering a little too long. "I thought you were dodging me again." Tessa laughed softly. "You're dramatic." Then she turned to me and introduced us. Grant, this is Ryan. He shook my hand firmly and held it a beat too long. Nice to finally meet the man behind the calendar blocks, he said, smiling like it was a joke. Tessa laughed, loud and quick. I kept my expression neutral. Calendar blocks. Grant leaned in slightly and lowered his voice like we were all sharing a secret. She's a star, man. Seriously, she's going places. I keep telling her she needs to stop playing small. Tessa's cheeks flushed. The way she looked at him wasn't the way you look at a colleague complimenting your work. It was the way you look at someone whose attention you crave. A few minutes later, Tessa got pulled into a conversation with the director. Grant stayed near me, drink in hand, like he'd decided I was an obstacle to study. You guys live together? He asked, casual. Yeah, I said. He nodded like he already knew. That's a big step. Not everyone can handle her pace. I didn't answer. Grant smiled again. She talks about you, you know, about how stable you are. It's nice. She needs that. Stable. There it was again. The same word, coming from him now. Like my role in her life was a feature. Like I was a product she used. I watched Tessa across the rooftop, laughing with people, tilting her head at the right angle, shining. I realized something in that moment. If she was already emotionally elsewhere, it wouldn't matter how many mixers I attended. I would still be the safe base, not the choice. On the way home, she was upbeat, scrolling through photos from the event. Did you have fun? She asked, not looking up. It was fine, I said. She smiled. See? It's not all bad. And you met Grant. He's intense, but he's good for my career. Good for your career, I repeated. Tessa finally looked at me. Ryan, please don't be weird. It's business. It's what I have to do. What you have to do, I said quietly. She exhaled. You're overthinking. Maybe, I said. But I wasn't. The next week, she told me she had another late meeting. She got dressed, same style as before, and kissed me quickly as she left. I didn't argue. I didn't ask who, where, why. I said, okay, good luck, drive safe. Then, after she left, I opened my laptop and logged into the shared calendar she had added me to months earlier for bills and appointments. We'd started using it when we moved in together because it was convenient. The event was titled Client Dinner. No client name, no details. But there was a location attached. A restaurant near the river, one of those places people go when they want a table with a view and a reason to dress up. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling my heartbeat slow into something focused. I wasn't panicking. I was deciding. I drove to the restaurant and parked across the street. I felt ridiculous at first, a grown man sitting in his car like a teenager. But then I reminded myself, I didn't create this situation. I didn't choose secrecy. I didn't choose to be shut out. If nothing was happening, I would leave and apologize to myself. 10 minutes later, she arrived. Tessa stepped out of her car and adjusted her dress. She looked around, then smiled at someone inside. She walked in with the confidence of someone who belongs. I waited. Then I saw him. Grant stood up from a table by the window. He was taller than me, clean-cut, the kind of guy who wears his success like a uniform. He leaned in and kissed her cheek. She laughed and touched his arm. It was small enough to be plausible deniability. It was intimate enough to be real. They sat. Their faces were close. He made her laugh. She leaned forward with her hands on the table, eyes bright. She looked like she was on a date. And I felt something inside me go quiet. Not heartbreak yet. Clarity. I drove away before dessert. I didn't confront her in public. I didn't want a scene where she could paint me as insecure and emotional. I wanted to move like my job taught me to move. Plan, execute, remove risk. I went home and sat on the couch in our apartment, the apartment I paid half the rent for, the apartment that suddenly felt like a stage set. Then I got up and started doing what I do best. Logistics. First, I opened our filing drawer and pulled out important documents. My passport, my work records, my bank paperwork. Then I gathered anything sentimental that could disappear if this turned ugly. My grandfather's watch, a small box of photos from before her, my laptop. I placed it all in my car. Then I packed a bag with enough clothes for a week. Not because I was moving out immediately, because I was creating options. When she came home that night, she was cheerful. "Hey," she said, stepping in and kicking off her heels. "Good news. The dinner went great." I smiled politely. "That's great," I said. She leaned in for a kiss. I kissed her, and it felt like kissing a stranger. She didn't notice. That's the part that still makes me sick. She didn't notice the difference because she wasn't looking for it. Over the next month, I kept watching. Because one dinner could still be explained away. I wanted a pattern that could not be rewritten. And the pattern came fast. She met him again. And again. Always one-on-one. Always late. Always dressed like she was being seen. Her story stayed vague, but her mood was different when she came home. She'd hum while she brushed her teeth. She'd scroll her phone smiling. She'd be affectionate in bursts like she was paying a fee to keep me quiet. Then one afternoon, I got the final confirmation by accident. I came home early because a meeting on my end got canceled. I opened the door quietly, expecting to find her in her office. I heard her voice from the living room. Soft, close, private. Not a work tone. I stood in the hallway for a second, then walked in. She was on the couch with her laptop open, phone in her hand. She looked up and startled, then smiled too quickly. "Oh, hey, you're home early." "Yeah," I said. "Who were you talking to?" She hesitated, then gave me that familiar calm. "Grant, just a quick check-in." I nodded slowly. "A quick check-in that makes you sound like that." Her eyes flashed. "Ryan, don't do this. It's work." I walked over and looked at her laptop screen. It wasn't a spreadsheet. It wasn't an email. It was a hotel booking page, half filled out, dates highlighted for the following week. 2 guests, 1 room. Her face went pale for the first time in months. I looked from the screen to her. "What's that?" I asked. She swallowed. "It's for the conference." "What conference?" I asked. She didn't answer. She closed the laptop with a sharp movement like she could shut reality. "You're invading my privacy," she snapped, grabbing her phone. I stared at her. "You are planning a hotel room," I said. 2 guests, 1 room, and you're calling it business. Tessa stood up, shoulders stiff. "You don't understand how this world works," she said. "Relationships matter. Connections matter. If I play it right, I can move up. Grant can open doors." "So that's what this is," I said. "A career move." She flinched, then recovered. "Don't be dramatic. Nothing has happened. It's just flirting. It's harmless." "Harmless," I repeated. "Yes," she insisted. "It's not like I love him. It's not like I'm leaving you. You're safe. We're stable. This is just fun. Safe." That word hit like a slap. "You said that like it's a compliment," I said quietly. Tessa rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, you're twisting everything." "No," I said. "I'm hearing you clearly for the first time." Her expression changed, and I could see the calculation starting. The pivot. The soft voice. The apology. The manipulation wrapped in tenderness. "Ryan, listen," she said, stepping closer. "I don't want to fight. I love you. I'm just under pressure. We can fix this." I held up a hand. "No," I said. She froze. "No," I repeated. "Because this isn't a misunderstanding. It's a choice you kept making. You didn't slip. You built a second relationship and called it business because you thought I'd be too steady to leave." Tessa's eyes widened. "You're not going to leave. Over this." She said it with confidence, like she'd already decided my limits. That was the moment I knew the next move. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't insult her. I nodded once and walked to the bedroom. Tessa followed, voice rising. Ryan, stop. Don't be childish. I opened the closet and pulled out a suitcase. Then I started packing her things. Not mine. Hers. I packed the clothes she'd hung in my closet. I packed the shoes lined up by the wall. I packed the expensive skincare bottles she'd arranged on the bathroom counter like a display. Tessa stood in the doorway, stunned. What are you doing? She whispered. I kept packing. Ryan, you can't do that. I zipped the suitcase. I can, I said, and I am. Her face changed fast. Anger first. How dare you? You're so controlling. Then panic. Wait, please, let's talk. Then the final weapon. Fine, if you're going to be like this, you were never supportive anyway. I looked up at her and felt nothing, because support is not the same as self-abandonment. I carried the suitcase to the door and set it down. Then I placed her laptop bag beside it, then a box with the rest. Tessa stared like she couldn't believe the scene was real. This is insane, she said. You're throwing away 2 years because of a work friendship. I didn't raise my voice. You kissed him in a restaurant window, I said. You planned a hotel. You called him when I wasn't home, and you used that soft voice you never use with colleagues. If you need to call it friendship to sleep at night, do that. But you're not doing it in my home. Her eyes filled with tears, sudden and convenient. Ryan, please, I made a mistake. No, I said. You made a system. Then I opened the door. She stood there for a few seconds, breathing fast. She expected me to soften, to apologize for being decisive, to explain more, to negotiate. I didn't. Eventually, she grabbed the suitcase, then the box, then the laptop bag, struggling awkwardly. As she stepped into the hallway, she hissed one last line. You're going to regret this. I looked at her calmly. No, I said. I'm going to recover from it. Then I closed the door. The apartment went quiet. Not the heavy, lonely quiet, the clean quiet. I changed the locks the next morning. Not because I feared she'd hurt me, because I didn't want her to return and try to rewrite the story with tears. That afternoon, I got the messages. First, anger. You embarrassed me. You're overreacting. This is why people leave you. Then, guilt. I miss you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Then denial. Nothing happened. It was just business. You don't understand. Then finally, the truth slipped out without meaning to. I can't believe you didn't fight for me. That line made me laugh out loud in my empty kitchen. Because there it was. She wanted the fight. She wanted to feel valuable enough to be chased. She wanted me to prove I would tolerate anything to keep her. Instead, I chose peace. 2 months later, I heard through a mutual friend that she and Grant were officially together for a short time. Short, because men like Grant don't want a girlfriend who needs reassurance and consequences. They want easy admiration. Once the secret becomes a responsibility, it stops being fun. Tessa tried to reach out after it ended. A message request, a new number, a mutual friend hinting she wanted closure. I didn't respond, because closure is what people ask for when they want to reopen the door they slammed. And I wasn't interested. My life didn't become perfect overnight, but it became mine again. I slept better. I went to the gym without the weight in my chest. I started saying yes to friends and no to nonsense. I stopped trying to earn basic respect. And the weird part is, I didn't hate her. I just stopped wanting her. That's the real exit, not the dramatic argument, not the revenge. The moment you realize the story is over and you no longer care how they explain it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit the like button if you want more stories like this.